All right, so we are picking up at verse 12. Last week we covered chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. So that was Habakkuk's complaint, and then it was God's answer. So Renee, do you mind letting us know, like, emotionally, where are we at right now in the book of Habakkuk?
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of stunned and confused because it's like God's using evil people, more evil than his own chosen people. God's using evil people to overcome his chosen people. And I'm really confused why God would do that.
Yeah, that's exactly where you should be. So that means that tells me that you're reading correctly. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and pick up in verse 12.
All right, let's read that. And remember, the narrator, Habakkuk, never steps in and says, this is Habakkuk talking. This is God. You kind of have to stop and use contextual clues to figure that out. Habakkuk is beginning to speak and answer back to the dialogue that has already happened between him and God.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that it's him talking to God because he says, "Oh Lord, my God." So clearly God wouldn't be calling him.
Those are some of the textual clues.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's logic you can do.
Yes.
Are you not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have ordained them as a judgment, and you, O Rock, have established them for reproof. You who are purer eyes than to see evil and cannot look at wrong, why do you idly look at traitors and remain silent when the wicked swallows up the man more righteous than he? This is exactly the question you had posed. And that's really, that's what he's landing at, is like, okay, I was frustrated enough that you're idly looking at the injustice and things that are happening within our kingdom of Judah.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me that someone who is more wicked, more twisted, is just going to keep gaining in strength, and you're going to be behind that.
Yeah.
And you're going to let them swallow up us and put more suffering on us. Like, this isn't really answering the question I had.
This is making it worse, God. Yeah. And can we just appreciate God right now? Because just think what a kind father to know that we have certain questions, we have certain concerns, and then to give us an oracle where he's doing a better job voicing our frustration and concerns than we possibly could. So God's literally teaching us and training us as his people to bring our frustrations and concerns to him. So he's training us to pray well, and that's really kind and loving of him. So
we're going to keep reading verses 14 and 17, and really Habakkuk is continuing to flesh out that same question. Okay?
And he brings up some pretty cool imagery here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good imagery here. So you make mankind like the fish of the sea, like crawling things that have no ruler. He brings them up with a hook, and he drags them out with his net. He gathers them in his dragnet. So he rejoices and is glad.
I got to interrupt and say,
great. No, it's perfect. Perfect question. Okay, so the image that we have here, and so this is just another note. Also, when you see a pronoun like he, you're going to have to be like, wait, is Habakkuk talking about he the fish?
Yeah, who
he
brings
the Chaldeans?
all of them up
what are
with
you
a
know?
hook?
So let's just take some moment to clarify that. The you in verse 14, you make mankind like the fish. Well, he's already talking to God. So he's saying, God, you make mankind like the fish of the sea, like crawling things who have no ruler. And in this case, when you kind of look at the surrounding what we're talking about, it's not just ruler in the sense of they have no king telling them what to do. A king is also a military might. They have no military might or protection. They're just swimming around. And then you have this is a reference, an image to the Chaldeans, brings them up with a hook. So he's using this image of a fisherman who's able to just cast. A drag net is what, it was a large net. It would have weights on the end so that when you throw it out, it sinks, and then you can kind of cinch it up, and it pulls all of those fish and critters and things that are within its path. All of them just get gathered and entangled, and then they're trapped. Yeah.
So the dragnet is the tool that the fisherman uses to capture his prey. Yeah.
And then Habakkuk is using that imagery. That's how we feel. I feel like, our nation is like a bunch of little fish in the sea that we have no protection. And then this huge dragnet, this military power that doesn't care. It doesn't have any more there's no one who's saying, oh, hey, this is an injustice and you shouldn't do that. They're taking whatever they see. It's like this dragnet coming and swallowing them all up. Yep. And so he's using that throughout it. You'll see references to net, like look at verse 16. He sacrifices to his net. He makes offerings to his dragnet. No, not literally.
Yeah. Okay. So we got to zoom in there, right? So you have the fisherman with his dragnet who's capturing fish. You have the Babylonians with their military might, and they're capturing Israel. Okay, so look at this. It says that the fisherman is like worshiping his dragnet. Well, the parallel is the Babylonians are worshiping their power. They're worshiping the power that they have that makes them to be able to pray and capture Israel. That's what they're worshiping.
Now, this is a helpful, context can help clarify meaning here. It's obvious why there's a parallel, like why that dragnet is a good illustration. But I think Habakkuk is doing something more, because one of the things the Babylonians were known for is when they would conquer other nations. Remember, it's not just that they're coming. Habakkuk is able to hear rumors of what they did in other areas and nations. What did they do? And think, where there's pillaging, where there's raping, where there's stealing, they're all hearing rumors of this and knowing this is now coming their way. Yeah. But one of the things the Babylonians were known for doing is putting literal hooks through the noses of their captors and leading them. I mean, think of that tender area here being led, chained to other people, being led to your destruction, being led away. And so I think that's also maybe why he's using this fishing imagery. And he even talks about a hook in here. He brings them up with a hook. It's possible, I think he chose that of all illustrations because it's referencing this real life fear and humiliation none of us would want to face. None of us want to know that it is even a possibility for anyone, much less coming for sure our way, and that God would be aware of it.
Yeah.
And so he says to them, he sacrifices to his net and makes offerings to his dragnet. This is similar to the accusation that God gave to the Chaldeans, to the Babylonians last week. Their justice and dignity go forth from themselves. Their own might is their God. So that sacrificing, he's again saying they're so enveloped with their own power and strength. They're so proud of it. It's like, this is, because usually in that time period in the ancient world, you would sacrifice to the God who said, you gave us the victory. They're saying, my might gave us the victory. So theoretically, not literally, they're sacrificing to their own dragnet, their own military might. For by them he lives in luxury. Yeah, they've stolen and pillaged everything. So they're beginning and continuing to have a more luxurious life despite how they're obtaining it. His food is rich. Is that he then to keep on emptying his net and mercilessly killing nations forever? In other words, you would with your dragnet, you come in, you'd empty it into your boat, you just go back and get more. And that's what it seems like they're allowed to do. They're just conquering and conquering. And Habakkuk is saying, really? You're not going to put an end to this? I'm mad that you're not going to put an end to it in general. And then I'm extra mad that this is the tool you're going to use to bring judgment on us. So what are we supposed to be feeling in response at this point? And how would you be feeling? How do you relate to
we'll
this?
Pass the ball to you.
I'm really feeling angry, kind of confused of like, why do these people who praise themselves, God's going to give them everything? Like they just keep taking, they're rich, they're like, have luxury, and here we are. So it kind of makes me like angry.
Yeah, a feeling of injustice, perhaps. Yeah.
I think that's honestly really illustrated. If you look at chapter 2, verse 1, this is kind of Habakkuk's made his point. And it's like he's sitting back now with his arms crossed. And he says, I'll take my stand at my watchpost and station myself in the tower. And I'll look to see what he, meaning God, will say to me. And and what I will answer concerning my complaint. Let me put that in words like, all right, I've said it. Now you tell me what you say to that. And I'll tell you what I'm going to say to your response. Like he's already, like he's so mad, he's already ready. Like it doesn't matter what you say. There's nothing you can say that would justify this answer.
Yep.
Can you explain what a watch post is?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a great, we talked about how cities, the way they would have protection would be through walls. Watchtowers would be certain fortitudes on that wall where, soldiers and people can be stationed. They'd be able to hide. They'd be able to look for anything that's coming so they can warn the rest. And so to be standing at your watchtower, you were looking out. So
that's your whole job. I mean, like if like we know bad guys are coming to get us, like we're all going to put our money together. We're going to pay you to do nothing but stand in that tower and look for signs of attack. Like, that's all you're doing. That's your full-time job. You do nothing but look and wait, and like you keep yourself awake. They would have these watchmen like take turns, walk around, like keep it, I say, like keep awake and watch. And I mean, that's your whole
Matter of fact,
job.
if you fell asleep when you were on watch, you would be killed.
Right.
And the reason is because you've put everyone else's life at risk. Your job was to be looking for any potential trouble.
Yeah.
So there's almost like two angles to this image. On one, he's kind of showing how alert and how he's anticipating. He's not like, I guess God will answer me.
Yeah.
He's
I'll
like,
trust that you'll
I need that answer
sometime.
now.
Yeah.
Like I'm
waiting.
and looking. So there's that angle. And the other is also him thinking on behalf of the people.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? This is what's coming? Well, you better explain this as he's sitting here, on the watchtower, thinking of the responsibility of the soldier to
and
warn others.
And we can end on this, but you do love the fact that he's like, hey, I'm going to wait for you to answer. I'm also
and then I'm going to tell you what I think.
Completely waiting on me to answer back. Right?
Yes. So, I want you to, see that kind of humor and sarcasm there. Remember all of this whole conversation God is wanting us to have. And he says it's for our benefit and helping us understand how to reconcile what we do when we're waiting on justice. And same as last week, you need to put yourself both in Habakkuk's shoes.
Yeah.
If these are the questions you're needing to wrestle, allow this to bring those up. So spend some time, whether that's journaling, writing out a prayer, or whether it's just verbalizing what are the questions, what are the injustices you're confused about. Like, let this get that out of you.
Yeah.
Let it help you present all of that to God. Maybe even explore what you haven't maybe admitted to yourself you're really thinking. But in the same way, don't stop there. Also put yourself under the same accusation that's happening for Babylon. Mm-hmm. Like, are there any ways you have continued to kind of be proud of your own might, even in subtle ways, even the subtle thoughts, like allow that to also purify and purge. What are some things I've maybe let take root in how I've been thinking?
Yep. That's great. So we want to end by asking, okay, what's the information that the author wants us to learn? And then what are the emotions that he wants us to experience? So what's a couple of primary truths or takeaways? Like, what do we learn about God and justice and prayer?
Yeah. I think for one, reiterating what we said the week before, asking these questions is not a problem with our faith. I think it's part of how we begin to work it out and understanding and wrestling through these things with him. I think also our pride and us defining what is good and us providing for ourselves is a problem. And, you think of what Christ said when he said, if anyone wants to follow me, you have to take up your cross, deny yourself, in order to do that. And this type of attitude, even a small seed of it, you can't be both proud of your reputation. You can't be seeking after these type of things and be becoming a servant, be denying yourself.
Like the Babylonians are doing.
It works in opposition. So that's where I think we are also invited to hold a mirror up and see if there are aspects where we are under the same accusation. And we'll see how God will speak about the Babylonians as we continue through the book. Anything you would add?
I think for me, a takeaway is seeing Habakkuk's faith. He clings to God even in the midst of his uncertainty, his confusion, the injustice. He's still clinging to God. He's saying, I will take my stand at my watchpost and wait. He's going to wait for God.
Yeah, absolutely.
To see what God's going to do next.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, cool. We'll see y'all next week.
See you then.